Hi Group 2, I'm just going to show you how I prepared your data file to prepare it for you to analyze the data in Jamovi. The reason that I'm the one doing this is because this stuff has to be done in SPSS. It's possible that it can be done in Jamovi, but it's a lot easier to do in SPSS. So I'm just going to show you how I did that in case you want to know how to do that for the future. So the first thing we're going to do is in variable view, which we're in right now. I'm going to clean some things up, so I fixed age, and I'm going to get rid of some unnecessary variables that Qualtrics just adds in, so like start date, end date, things like that. I'm just going to clear out so that they're out of our way, because we don't really need those. So this is just me clearing those up, getting rid of most of them. I'm going to leave a couple of them, and I'll explain why I'm leaving those. Okay, so I'm deleting some of those. I'm going to get rid of things like first, last name, email, stuff like that Qualtrics collects that we really don't need. We didn't collect any information about their name or anything. So now we're left with things like age, gender, income, religion, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. The one thing I will show you is that race is broken into 6 variables, so each race is its own variable, and that's just how Qualtrics does it, but we have to recode that to fix it, and I will show you how to do that. Okay, so just looking through these IPS items are the procrastination items, so I'm just making sure that everything is correct, so on the right response scale. So those I believe were like a 1 to 5 response scale, so just making sure that that's correct, that everything's in the right format, so like scale, nominal. So here I'm changing things like political affiliation should be nominal, ethnicity should be nominal. I'm going to probably change, the first race one will be nominal, and I'll explain to you why only the first one, but we're going to delete the other variables and just have one race variable. So income, gender, religion, all of those I'm going to make nominal since they're categorical. And I'll show you later how I'm going to make those race variables into one variable. Just because in order to compare groups, it has to be in the same variable. So now I'm going to switch to data view. I don't think that we need this status part. I thought that it was something else when we first started, so I'm just going to delete that. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do is we're going to fix the race variable. So as you can see, it's like 1 through 6 right now. It categorized each race as a separate one. We're going to fix that. But first I'm going to fix this age variable because right now there's some decimals, so it just looks weird. It's not a whole number. So we're going to make it 0 decimals so that it can be a whole number again. Okay, so now we're going to fix the race variable. I'm going to highlight all of these to show you. You can see most of them are in the first one, which is white. So what we're going to do is add in all those categories. So we're going to click on the little arrows next to values there on the right. Unfortunately, you can't see the pop-up that comes up, but it allows you to add in like a number and a description of that number for each value. So what I'm doing there is the way it started, 1 is coded as white. So I'm just going to add in 2 Black or African American, 3 as American Indian or Alaska Native, 4 as Asian, 5 as Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, and 6 as other. So I'm just going down that line right there for variables 1 through 6. And then I'm actually going to add a 7 and make that multiracial just so that we can encompass anyone who selected more than one race. And that's just so that those people are represented too. Because we'll only be able to select one category, so if they identify as more than one race, we want to make sure that that's included. So now we're going to go look at that. Alright, so how I'm going to do this is I'm just moving the screen over to center that those race variables to make it easier to see. And I'm going to move everything into that first column, which is why I already added the coding. So as you can see, that first person identified as other, which was number 6, so I'm changing it to a 6. Second person identified as Black, which was 2. This person identified as white and whatever number 3 was, so I'm changing that to multiracial there. The person was just number 6, so I'm changing that to a 6. And I'm just kind of deleting the other ones as I go along so that when the other columns are completely empty, I know that that means that I finished doing everything I need to do. So it's just kind of a way to like make sure I know what ones I've already changed and what ones I haven't changed. So I'm just going to go through all of them and do that for all of them. And then I'm going to speed this up so that you don't have to watch me do all of that. And I'll be back. Okay, so you can kind of see that there's some missing data down here at the bottom, which I'll show you what to do with that next. But I'm going to go back to variable view after saving it. And what I'm going to do is delete those other race variables now that I'm done entering everything into the first category. So I'm just going to clear that. And when I did that, I accidentally deleted all of them. So I'm going to undo that and then just do the right ones. So that's correct now. Okay, so now looking through, we have age, gender, income, religion, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, political affiliation, and then all of our procrastination questions. So it looks like we have everything in order. The next thing I'm going to do is check for missing data. And I did notice at this point that it looks like where I'm actually clicking is not like the right spot on the screen. I don't know why the screen recording recorded like that, but like I was clicking on that top thing where it said progress. The mouse is just a little off, so just ignore that. So what I'm doing is basically looking through to see who didn't complete 100% of the survey. This person completed 91%, but they didn't do any of our IPS variables, so I'm going to remove them because if they didn't do any of our dependent variable items, we have nothing to compare their score to. So I'm deleting them for that reason. So anyone who did 91% or less, we know that that means that they didn't do that variable. So here I am just highlighting everything in order to delete it. SPSS is sometimes a little bit finicky with what it lets you click, so it takes me a second here to highlight everything. And as you can see, like where I'm clicking doesn't line up, the mouse, what it's showing doesn't line up with where I'm actually clearly clicking, because I was clicking on like 124 there, and then I'm clicking at 127, but it looks lower. So just ignore that and know that like where the mouse is not where I'm actually clicking. So now I'm just going to scroll up, make sure everything looks good. So the reason all of that missing data was at the end is because when you submit your Qualtrics survey, it tacks on all of the incomplete responses at the end. So that's why that was all like that. So now what I'm doing is just looking through, making sure everything says 100%, and I'm just going to delete that variable because we don't need it anymore now that we know that everything's at 100%. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is check the data to make sure that there's no missing data. So even though it says 100%, if someone clicked through the survey but didn't fill out anything, it would still show up as 100%. So as you can see here, there's one missing data on that row 47. So I'm right clicking and then clicking clear to delete that one because they didn't fill out the dependent variable. And then it looks like everything else is good. There's a couple where they left like one blank, or and that's fine. They probably just like missed clicking on that one, but we won't remove them for just having one missing. Everything looks good other than that, so we're all set to move on to the next step. Alright, so I think the last thing I'm going to do is create an ID variable for each participant. And the reason I'm going to do this is so that we have something that links each participant to their data. So I'm going to add a new variable there by right-clicking and clicking Add Variable. When I double-click on it, it'll go back to Variable View. So I'm going to change the name to ID and then write Participant ID in the label part. And we're going to use this variable just to, like I said, categorize each person so that there's a number associated with each participant. And the way I'm going to do that is just like sequentially adding in numbers. So you might see that like there's numbers to the left of this in blue, but those ones are just showing how many rows of data there are. Those numbers aren't really linked to the data. So if I were to rearrange the data, like sorting by like youngest to oldest, those numbers would stay the same, but all the data would be in a different order. So this is just a way that allows us to ensure that the data, each participant, each row, which is one participant, is linked with a number so that we can find them if there was like an outlier and we needed to remove a participant or that kind of thing. So this just allows us to locate them. So I'm going to speed this up while I finish numbering these. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you what happens if we reorder the data. So I'm going to start by age, youngest to oldest, and we're just going to make sure that everyone's over 18 because that's the age of consent, so everyone needs to be 18. So you can see we have one person who is 16, so I'm going to remove them. But you can also see that the ID numbers changed. So now it goes from like 51 to 11 to 66 instead of 1, 2, 3. So we can see that that order has changed when we sorted the data. So this, like I said, just allows us to really keep track. I'm going to delete that person who is 16 by right-clicking on the first row. This is just me showing you how to sort it again, ascending. So you're just going to click that sort ascending on the ID, and that'll put it back in the original order that we had it in. The number will be different. The number will say 84 instead of 83. And it's because one of the people that I removed, and that's fine because the numbers don't really have any meaning. The numbers are just like an ID, so it's more just like categorical. And that's everything I'm going to do, and the data is all ready to be analyzed now. So I hope this was helpful. Thanks for listening.